Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the AFC Vacations Virtual Travel Show. I have my good friend and tour manager, Deb Howard, joining us today, and I will get us going with some fun items to start and hand it off to her. But first, for those of you who know Randy Case, the founder of AFC Vacations, I was able to join him and Matt Kennel, our president, along with Dave in our air department for a Padres game a week or two ago. And Randy is doing very well, sends his best wishes to everybody, and he's been actively enjoying retirement and skiing a lot this year. As we head into the peak of our travel season from September through October, we're excited to see so many trips heading out the door to wondrous places around the world. Just this week alone, we have our Alpine Swiss Villages, Black Hills and Badlands, and Canadian Rockies trips on the road. Now, on today's show, we'll be covering the tour director and tour manager schedules for 2026, and we're excited to introduce the lineup of trips led by our steady team of tour managers that make AFC and tours so memorable and so fun. So what makes AFC so great is our worldwide tours and cruises. It's a great variety of destinations around the world and all different travel styles. So whether it's a train trip, both domestically as well as overseas, our national parks tours by motor coach, our European river cruise charters, and our international programs, they all have something for everybody. Now, what's included with an AFC tour, first and foremost, is round-trip airfare, and that's shown in our brochure, including the gateways. So whether it's LAX, San Diego, or any place around the country, we can get you to the trip itself. So even if you have friends or family members that want to join you from other parts, we can make that work as well. And then we also offer a couple of different guarantees. One is our guaranteed departures, and that means that we have enough passengers on that trip to travel. We also have our guaranteed pricing. And so once you put your deposit down on a trip, your price is locked in. Even as fuel prices change and surcharges are sent our way, that doesn't get passed on to you. One of the great aspects of what we do is our home pickup airport service. And if you're within 40 miles of your airport gateway, we incorporate pickup and drop off, again, at the end of the trip, getting you to and from the airport simply. If you choose not to use the home pickup and you make your own way to the airport, we take $100 off your final payment. But what the company really comes down to is real people and real service. And we've been providing that since 1982. So a wonderful stretch in the travel industry with a tremendous amount of experience. And we also are part of the USTOA. That's the United States Tour Operators Association. So we're a select member of about 50 tour operators nationwide that are covered under a $1 million Traveler's Assistance Program. So that's got a great benefit to you. Now, we also have some great values that go along with that. First is our risk-free deposits and no change fees. So once you put your deposit down on a trip, that is set, your space is locked in. And if you had to cancel for any reason up until 90 days prior to departure, you would get a future travel credit for any cancellation fees, deposit, or travel protection if you incorporate that. So it's a really great investment, especially when you're putting your deposit down, to know that that's risk-free. And you can always travel within the next year if you had to cancel from 180 days to 90 days out. We also have our loyalty program, and that is the Travelers Club. And so if you book a tour with us or European River Cruise, you're automatically enrolled to receive a $100 loyalty credit off your next trip and each trip thereafter. So those are valid for 18 months. So if you book one trip and your second trip is within 18 months, that second tour would get the $100 deduction. We are also a company that started by word of mouth, and people told their friends and family members about us, and they began traveling with us and became consistent travelers with AFC. So if you do tell your friends or family members about AFC and they do take a trip with us using your name, you'll also get a $100 travel credit as that refer a friend credit. And last but not least is our early booking savings. So you can save money just by booking early, and it does pay to book early on these trips because they do sell out. So the first 20 clients on our domestic and international trips save up to $100 off by booking early. The 21st through 40th save up to $75 off. and those are doubled for the river cruises. The only requirement is to be in those segments and to pay your final payment by check. Now, getting into some wonderful tour schedules for our tour managers. First up is Mark Jacobson, and he is a fantastic tour manager. He has been working with us for several years now, and as a resident of San Diego, it was an easy transition to bring him on board, and many of the passengers have had some familiarity already. He has a great lineup of trips for 2026, and we're excited to release those here. So everything from February, going through the Sierra Nevadas as part of the rail journey. Also, a couple of international programs, one being April 21st, Athens and the Greek Isles. That's by land with a couple of ferries to the Greek islands for 2 nights each. And then our Highlights of Scandinavia, June 11th. So really great programs out on display. These will all be up on our website as well as we move on to Brad Wenzel. And he is back after a year away. He quickly became a fan favorite of our travelers, and he's easygoing and does a great job providing detailed information about the places we see in such a fun way. He's a great guy, really fun to travel with, and he has a great segment of trips all around the world as well. One of the unique aspects is that we have Brad, Chris, and Deb on that April 7th Normandy, Paris, and Seine River Cruise. That's a fun group of people to travel with. He'll also be leading the April 21st Treasures of Ireland. And then one of the things I wanted to point out is that November 1st Great Trains and November 6th Sunny Tucson are trips that you could combine and do back to back. Brad is leading those 2 trips. They're both centered in Arizona. You go from the Great Trains in Sedona down into Tucson and continue the journey. So that's a fun way to travel and get to see a lot just with one flight. Getting into Pat Conway's schedule, he does a great job, both domestic and international, and he is over on the Alpine Swiss Villages tour right now. But he'll do everything from sunny San Diego. He's been asking and begging for Ireland, so I wanted to make sure he got onto that trip as well. So he'll be doing Ireland March 10th. And then he's got some great background with Japan and some really great experience there. So he'll be doing the May 7th, the November 5th, and October 27th, Discover Japan by Bullet Train. It's a really great new program that we released and excited to bring that to you. And Chris McCool is also running a number of great trips along this 2026 calendar. One of his favorites is the Alpine Swiss Villages that he helped create. And so he's on a number of those throughout the summer. We also have the Mackinac Island and Grand Hotel May 15th. And he'll be on that Normandy, Paris, and Seine River Cruise also. One of the variants in his schedule is he'll be doing the Treasures of Croatia and Slovenia. And this is a magical trip. Croatia is so beautiful, as is Ljubljana in Slovenia. So really wonderful programs. And then October 10th, he's doing the Wonders of the Blue Danube as the river cruise. So again, these will all be posted on our website. And getting over to a fan favorite as well, Deb Howard has been with us numerous years. I think, Deb, you mentioned about 16 years with AFC Vacations. Okay. And she does a fantastic job with our travelers and making sure you have a great time out on the road. So I have the honor of introducing you to Deb Howard.
Thank you, Will. Hi, all. So if you follow me on Facebook, which you are welcome to do, you may know that from time to time I make a post of where is Deb's office today. I give you a little time to guess, and then I provide an answer with hopefully some geographic and historical context. It's a little bit of armchair travel. Well, if you look at the picture underneath my photo, this is where my office is today. I'm on the banks of the Sheepscot River in Edgecombe, Maine. As I sit here with my window open, you just might hear a boat moving along the river. And I hope you don't hear my dog bark. But many of you know this is my happy place, and it's where I come to restore my body, my brain, my soul. I prepare for the upcoming fall season from this fabulous place. So today I'm going to share with you some of the highlights in the tours and cruises that I'll be leading in 2026. Yes, it is my 16th season with AFC. No retirement for me yet, as long as my brain and body hold out. I am fortunate. My husband, Bill, is very supportive of my decision to continue. Honestly, I think this is because he's had the opportunity to join me on some of the European cruises that I've done in the past few years. I know some of you have met him, and this in 2026, he'll join me on the April 7th Normandy, Paris, and Seine River Cruise. But more on that later.
So, Deb, let's start by talking about some of our most successful and unusual tours, our mystery trips. And you'll be leading one in February as well as the December departure of this year. And so for those who haven't experienced them, tell us how they work.
Okay. Our mystery tours take you to a final destination that we don't include in any of our other tours. Yes, you make a financial commitment to go to an unknown place. Does it sound daring? Yes. And I'll tell you, they are hugely popular and they sell out almost every time. What do we tell you? We let you know the average temperature of where you're going. We let you know what time you'll be picked up and what airline to report to. Your ticket agent is the one who will inform you of your arrival city. Take note, you might drive a distance from your arrival city to get to the ultimate destination. Now, honestly, there are ways to find out where you're going if you really want to know. But if you do, we ask you to keep it to yourself because so many people enjoy the surprise. Now, each day is new. Each tour director handles the experience differently. I will often give clues and let you try and guess where we're going. You may not know from hour to hour where you're headed. But if you have a sense of adventure and live well in the moment without having to know all of the details in advance, then these tours might be for you. We like to be creative with our mystery tour itineraries. We offer quite a few factory tours and behind-the-scenes venues. My favorite was the toilet paper factory near Omaha, Nebraska, which was run by the sight impaired. Another surprise favorite was being able to go to the Muscle Shoals Sound Studio in Alabama, where the Swampers played backup for many of the 70s musicians like Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, and the Allman Brothers. Okay, so are you worried that the one you sign up for might go to a destination you have been to frequently? You can give the office a list of places that you don't want to go to. They're not going to tell you where it's going, but they will likely guide you away from that particular tour. It's also a good idea to ask them to double check your historic travel profile to be sure you haven't been to the location you've signed up for. So one last thing about these mystery tours, there's really something unique that happens. When everyone is experiencing the adventure for the first time, it's a level playing field. And folks develop a special bond that often creates a comfort. It creates lasting friendships and sometimes new travel partners who want to go out together again. It's a sense of adventure and fun that breeds this closeness. You can join me, as Will said, this December, there's still room, or next February for one of those opportunities.
Now, if you can't join Deb in February, we do have about 8 others during the course of the year. Brad Wenzel is doing the March 24th departure, and we'll be releasing some of the others throughout the year in our next catalog. So look out for that. Deb, let's move on to March, and one of the great programs that we also have on offer, and that's the Washington, D.C. and Cherry Blossoms Tour.
Okay, well, we are going to try and catch the cherry blossoms in bloom in our nation's capital. Honestly, the catalog says it best. It describes Washington, D.C. as a working federal city, an international metropolis, a picturesque tourist destination, an unmatched treasury of our country's history and artifacts, and a cosmopolitan center. It is an unpacked once very full 6 days of sightseeing. We hit the highlights. So the first day, we visit Arlington National Cemetery to see the eternal flame at JFK's resting site and the changing of the guard at the National Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. We visit the Iwo Jima statue, known as the Marine Corps Memorial. We enjoy the White House Visitor Center and stroll along the mall's tidal basin to see the cherry trees, which we hope will be in bloom. Then we continue on to see the well-known memorials, such as the Jefferson, Martin Luther King, National World War II, and truly my favorite memorial in DC, the 4 rooms of the FDR Memorial. These represent the 4 different terms that he served. Here's a little unknown fact that's fun to see. The FDR Memorial faced a lot of criticism from disabled activists, and a new statue showing FDR in a wheelchair was added in 2001. Then we complete our day with a welcome dinner, all right? And this is all on the very first day. It's a busy day. Additional touring days will include a visit to the National Portrait Gallery, to Ford's Theater, Capitol Hill, the Library of Congress, and we return and visit some of these iconic memorials for a twilight illumination tour where they are lit up at night. Another fun thing we'll do is we will take a cherry blossom luncheon cruise on the Potomac River. They are well known for their signature pink drink, and it's really a lovely cruise, blossoms or not. We leave the city twice to drive to the outskirts. We travel to Annapolis, Maryland. We have a visit of the U.S. Naval Academy, and we have some spare time to enjoy lunch and shopping in the historic Annapolis Harbor. The other time we leave the city is we go to Alexandria, Virginia, very close by, to visit Mount Vernon, the home of George and Martha Washington, and their extensive estate grounds overlooking the Potomac. And this is also where their final resting place is. We see that nestled in the forest. And even with these very full days, we have incorporated something we feel is important, a little free time to visit your choice of any of the world-famous Smithsonian museums. You can check out Air and Space, Natural History, American History, Gallery of Art, and there's many more. I'm going to say most of these museums close at 5:30. So my advice is, if you take this tour, do a little study ahead of time to determine which museums appeal to you the most. I find that spending quality time in 1 or 2 places is far better than trying to see 3 or 4. The walks between the museums take up your valuable time. So do know where you want to go. This is an active tour with lots to see. Bring your best walking shoes and keep your fingers crossed for the cherry blossoms. The only time we offer this tour is in March in 2026.
Well, we are bringing back another great trip, and that is a new tour that we've redesigned from previous versions in North Carolina's Outer Banks. And we know you did a number of these several years ago, so tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. Well, this tour is returning after a multi-year hiatus. I honestly think it's better, and it's 1 day longer than before. I'm pleased to see the changes and look forward to doing it. I do it twice in 2026, both in May and in September. So this is an 8-day tour. We fly in and out of Raleigh, North Carolina. We start our tour with a city tour of Raleigh. We see the state capitol. We drive through a really charming neighborhood to show you the Victorian homes of Oakwood. And that afternoon, we head out to Atlantic Beach. It's an oceanfront hotel. We spend 2 nights there. We continue our sightseeing. We go to New Bern, North Carolina. It's the home of Tryon Palace. This is the first state capital of North Carolina. Pepsi-Cola was invented here. Okay, and we learn all about that. This tour, we spend a fair amount of time on the water, and our very first experience will be an Inner Banks lunch cruise. This is new, and I can't wait to experience this. It's also going to be our first chance to see the wild horses along the banks. We'll get another chance later as well. We'll have a visit to Beaufort, okay, not to be confused with Beaufort, South Carolina. All right. Beaufort is the state's third oldest town. And we begin by seeing those live oak trees that are draped with the Spanish moss that are so familiar in the South. In the next morning, we take a ferry across Pamlico Sound to the island of Ocracoke. It has a small village vibe. We get to explore the island. Most people get around that island with a golf cart, and it could be fun to join others, rent a golf cart. It's right close to where the ferry drops us off. And if you're interested, I'll be sure to have the details for when we get there. Then we take another ferry. On the northern side of that island, we go to Nag's Head, right? And this is where we get to stay at another oceanfront property for 3 nights. That makes a total of 5 nights of oceanfront. We'll see the site of the Lost Colony. This was founded by Sir Walter Raleigh in 1585. I have a really great video that tells the story of this missing settlement. And I'll share with you some of the latest findings that have been found during a recent archaeological dig. Later, we go up to Kill Devil Hills. We go to the Wright Brothers National Memorial. This is the site of their very first powered flight. We'll continue on to the town of Corolla. We see a restored 1920s residence called the Whalehead Club. And walking distance from this house is the Currituck Beach Lighthouse. And you can go up that lighthouse if you wish. That afternoon, we take our second opportunity to see wild horses on an off-road nature safari. We actually go right along the beach, and you see the horses, and the horses are protected. They have the rule of the beach along the shore. And our last full day takes us to Edenton, the second oldest town in North Carolina. We'll have a guided tour of a cotton mill before we head back to Raleigh. When we're back in Raleigh, we tour the North Carolina Executive Mansion of the Governors. I love this casual tour, especially with the nights on the oceanfront property. You can open your windows, you can hear the waves, walk the beaches, enjoy the sunshine. I hope you'll join me on one of these two dates. So, Will, you're up. I'll take a break. Let's hear about the San Antonio Fiesta Tour.
So I think Deb would probably agree with me that this is one of the most enjoyable trips. For one reason, we are staying all 4 nights in one hotel, right in the center of San Antonio and right near the Riverwalk. Really great location. Great access to all the different activities around the city. And we'll do a full-scale city tour of San Antonio, incorporating the Alamo and the IMAX movie that does a great presentation of the Battle of the Alamo. We'll also visit one of the oldest missions in Texas, as the friars made their way up through the state and settled, creating great churches. We'll see the famous one, which is the Alamo, and the famous battleground, and we'll get a chance to do a self-tour there. And then we'll also see a number of the neighborhood districts within San Antonio as part of that tour. A big part of this trip is for the Fiesta, and that's part of the Texas Cavaliers River Parade. This is a river float that's put on by the U.S. Army and the military right down the water of the Paseo del Rio. Now, we'll also do a cruise along the river, but really the decorations, the floats, the excitement around the parade are really a fun aspect of this trip. And you get to sit out along the Riverwalk and see them coming by. It's a really great time. we'll work our way up to Austin, and that's the state capital of Texas. So we'll get a chance to do a city tour there. We'll see the campus of the University of Texas, and then also do a visit to the Lyndon B. Johnson Presidential Library. And this is a smaller library, but very interesting as well. And so we'll get a chance to go inside and see a lot of his background and his time in office. Another great day is going out to the hill country and up to Fredericksburg. Now, this is a town that was settled primarily by Germans in the 1800s. And so there's a lot of German theme, but it's also wine country. And so we'll combine a visit to the town with a wine tasting in that area. And within the city itself, we also get a chance to see the National Museum of the Pacific War. And this is a tremendous museum dedicated to local resident Chester Nimitz, who was the admiral of the Pacific Fleet. So all in all, really great activities combining into 5 days. And this one takes off April 17th. Now, I know you don't have this tour on your schedule in 2026, Deb, but you've done this many times, and you're probably the best of the two of us to talk about it.
So I'm going to talk to you about the Niagara Falls and Grand Hotel Tour. I did it twice this year. It's very popular. It's an 8-day tour. We have numerous departures of this tour. We've done it for years. It operates like a well-oiled machine. Brad and Sandy Wenzel are among a few of the tour directors operating this tour this year. I think Pat Conway also is. He's done it many times. It's great. We start our first day in Dearborn with a tour of the River Rouge plant, where if you're there on production day, you literally watch the F-150 trucks being made in a moving assembly line. And that afternoon, we head over to Henry Ford's Museum and Greenfield Village. You can never have enough time in this place. Ford wanted to collect items of historical significance that portrayed the Industrial Revolution. He didn't want us to forget that. And his collection includes things like the presidential limousine of JFK, the chair that Lincoln sat in at Ford Theater when he was shot, Thomas Edison's laboratory, the Wright brothers' bicycle shop, the bus, the actual bus there, the Rosa Parks bus. There's many other historical exhibits. It's a super afternoon with a generous amount of time. Okay, now who wouldn't want to unwind, disconnect, and enjoy a peaceful island stay with no cars and being picked up by a horse and carriage to take you up the hill to the lovely property of the Grand Hotel. Our first morning on Mackinac Island, we have a tour of a portion of the island on a horse and carriage. As I said, there's no cars allowed. Your afternoon is free to do a little shopping, to have some tea, to listen to the harp playing, or to sample some of the fudge in the many fudge shops on Mackinac. We are very lucky. AFC has us staying for 2 nights at the Grand Hotel, where fine dining for dinner and a delicious breakfast will be served. There's also a large ballroom for dancing with a live band after dinner each night. Each room is decorated in a unique style. I'd recommend watching the movie Somewhere in Time. It was filmed at the hotel. I'm sure you would remember the one with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour, and it will give you a preview of what to expect. So when we leave Mackinac, all right, we head for St. Ignace, and this is in the Upper Peninsula, and we go across one of the world's longest suspension bridges, which is called the Mighty Mac for short. We're headed to the town of Frankenmuth. This is a Bavarian-style town where we spend the night. We have some lunchtime there. They have their famous fried chicken, and you get some time to visit Bronner's Christmas Wonderland. They promote themselves as the world's largest Christmas store. I suspect they're right. It's over 7 acres. And then we make our way into Canada. All right, we're going to Niagara Falls. We don't just see the falls, we experience it in as many ways as we can, except for going over in a barrel. We go behind the falls where we are given rain ponchos. We take a boat right up to the base of Horseshoe Falls. This is the one on the Canadian side. And we walk alongside the Niagara River, just feet away from the very powerful Class 6 rapids. In our final evening, we dine above the falls at the Skylon restaurant. This is where the falls are lit up at night, and each night we're there, the fireworks conclude the evening. Our tour ends as we make our way back to the American side and fly home from Buffalo.
Deb, you live in Rhode Island on the East Coast, not far from the Cape, and this is one of our most popular tours. Tell us about the highlights and why you think it's so sought after.
Well, it is. It's in my backyard. So, of course, I'm very familiar with it and have a particular kinship for this tour. We fly into Boston for one overnight. All right. We have a Boston City tour. In the morning, we see the well-known sites such as the Old North Church, the Boston Commons. We stop at Quincy Market for lunch, and we head to Plymouth, Massachusetts. This is where the Pilgrims first settled in 1642. That afternoon, we visit a reenactment of this original community. There's live interpreters dressed in period costumes representing the settlement of the Englishers and the natives. And we also get to see the infamous Plymouth Rock. So as the Plymouth settlement grew, it spread throughout the area. It established new communities along the Cape, and some into Rhode Island, actually, and many made their living by the sea. While those communities have grown over the years, we still get to see the charm and the historic properties that were built during the 1700s. There's towns like Sandwich and Brewster and Dennis. These were all gateways to points further out on the Cape. And we are heading towards Provincetown, where we get to spend a nice leisurely visit. You know, as we travel out to the end of the Cape, these are areas that were less inhabited. And we see that, in effect, we see sand dunes, we see marsh, kettle ponds, cranberry bogs, beach houses. It's really laid back. It's relaxing. It's also ever-changing. The effects of the wind and water change that landscape, and we are losing 3 feet of coastline every year. We show you a very good film of how this actually happens. We spend a morning learning about cranberries, and it's very different from those commercials with the 2 guys standing in the water. We take ferries to the outer islands of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, and we learn about the important but short-lived whaling industry at the Nantucket Whaling Museum. This brought tremendous wealth to these 2 islands. Speaking of wealth, we spend a day traveling to Newport to see how those of the Gilded Age lived. We take a tour of the breakers, just one of the Vanderbilt homes still standing on Bellevue Avenue. And we take a 10-mile drive along the oceanfront, which is where the wealthy live now.
Everyone talks about the seafood in New England. What's that all about, and why does it deserve such bragging rights?
Oh, it's very clear. The secret is the cold water of the Atlantic. This makes a huge difference compared to the Gulf or the Pacific. You'll find cod, fluke, haddock, crabs, lobsters, clams, oysters, all tasty cold water delicacies. No Cape Cod visit is complete without a lobster bake. Now, do we bake the lobster? No, it's steamed. We just call it a lobster bake. It's a feast. It's often as much of a social occasion as it is food. It does take time to hand carve your way through a lobster. Be prepared. Now, due to global warming, the lobsters are moving further north. I want you to get in on a Cape tour now while we can still get our delicacy that was once served to prisoners multiple times a week as their food ration. So you can join me in September of this year if that appeals to you. There's about 5 spots left this year, or I'll be doing it again next September.
And Deb, you spend a lot of time in Maine, having a home there, and we have a lot of vacationers from parts of the country that are not familiar with that state. What do you think would appeal to AFC travelers?
Well, I'll tell you, I have spent some time of each of my 72 years of age in Maine. I know it really well, and I love it. I call it rugged for the land and scenery, as well as independent and resilient for the people that live here. That's what life and living in Maine demands. It's really a state of contrasts. They have 3 beautiful seasons. And yes, honestly, they have one long, cold, and dark, snowy winter. There's one phrase that resonates with me and truly describes Maine. It is where the granite meets the sea. It's craggy shorelines and peninsulas, granite rocks and boulders, green pine trees, lobster boats, lobster pots, islands with birds and seals. They all make for a rugged coastline. This is a location where dawn first breaks on the United States. You know, if you add up all the coastline of Maine and all the coastline of its islands and peninsulas, it is longer than the coastline of California. We'll see a fraction of Maine's coastline, but we'll take you to some of the most charming coastal towns. A popular view are the lighthouses. They have dotted the landscape for years as they have alerted seafaring captains and current boaters, of course, of nautical hazards. And our tour gives you a chance to see a number of these lighthouses, both by water and by land. We have 2 boat cruises on this tour. Casco Bay in Portland, we get to see 7 different lighthouses on that boat trip. And then we go to Ogunquit, Maine, all right, where we board a lobster boat, and a local lobsterman takes us out and shows us how they capture the lobster for a real hands-on experience. We have a tour of a Victorian home in Portland, and we take a ride on an electric rail car. And of course, we have a lobster bake, complete with entertainment and music. Now, another highlight of this Maine tour, and it really is a highlight, this is the Coastal Botanical Gardens. And this is where the granite really does meet the sea, in over 295 acres of gardens. They're filled with native plants of northern New England and some very unique garden sculptures. There are 5 way bigger than life wooden trolls by the famous sculptor Thomas Dambo. They're hidden on the grounds, and it's up to us to find them. You're not going to get to all of them, but they are well worth hunting for. Now, here's a thought, okay? If you're interested in both the Cape and the Maine tour, if you can take a 2-week East Coast experience, you can save the money of flying back and forth. You could take my Cape tour in September of 26. We end the tour in Boston. You overnight at the end of that tour, like I will do. And the next day, we launch right into coastal Maine, all right, that starts on October 3rd. You'll have a little extra time in Boston, so you can think about what to do there while I pick up guests at the airport. And we'll have a shortened Boston City tour again, because there's a big emphasis on Fenway Park, the home of the Red Sox. And I'm not one bit prejudiced in saying it's the most beautiful, small ballpark in the country. During this tour, we spend the rest of our time at an incredible coastal resort in Kennebunkport, Maine, launching off from that location to see the sights along the water. You've got plenty of opportunity for lobster, clams, and lighthouses as we explore Portland, Kennebunkport, and Boothbay Harbor.
This is another new tour that we started this year, technically, and will continue in 2026. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So this West Virginia Rails tour has a little bit of everything. It has, and it's brand new, as Will has mentioned. It has historic monuments, scenic train trips, settlements and battlefields, and a night at a very luxurious resort. After an evening first of all, we fly into DC. Okay. So when we fly in, we have an evening illumination tour of the DC monuments. But then we start our train trips, and we take a 3-hour vintage train through the pastures and farms along the southern branch of the Potomac River. And we continue to the gorge known as the Trough. We spend a couple of nights in Elkins, West Virginia. The next day, we depart the Elkins Railroad and take a 4-hour round-trip journey through the wilderness. We go through mountains, through waterfalls, and we hope for fall color scenery. And when we return, we'll learn more about the railroad heritage by touring the West Virginia Railroad Museum. We continue to travel through mountain scenery until we reach the famous and luxurious Greenbrier Resort. It's very well known. We will have a docent-led tour to learn about the property and that very special thing that's there, the secret bunker that was built for the possible evacuation of the president and the members of Congress if the situation warranted such a quick departure from DC. And we do enjoy a very nice dinner in the main dining room at the Greenbrier. And then our tour will continue on to Monticello. Right? We'll go to Jefferson's home before heading to Colonial Williamsburg for a 3-night stay. Our tour of this area starts with a tour of Jamestown. It's our first permanent English settlement in the New World, founded in 1607. We move on to Yorktown, where the British commander surrendered to Washington's troops. And our last full day of this 8-day tour concludes with a visit to Colonial Williamsburg. This is a 173-acre living history museum. This is also where interpreters are dressed in period costume, and we get to witness craftsmen and a variety of demonstrations of those times, of the colonial times. And we conclude with a colonial farewell dinner. All right. And we are sold out for 2025, but we will have a couple of offerings in 2026, and I will be leading the October version in 2026.
Deb, you've worked multiple river cruises for us in the last several years, and it seems to me you really enjoy working the cruises. Tell us why you enjoy them so much.
Sure. So we're gonna change up a little bit and talk about cruises. And honestly, I can sum up in one sentence, well, maybe two, why I've really enjoyed them. So river cruising is being able to see big cities and small European villages in an unpack once elegant setting with tasteful dining and plentiful opportunities for companionship, sightseeing, and moments of peaceful reflection. I thought a lot about being able to say to you what I wanted to, and that wraps it up. Our ships are small enough to give you a more intimate feeling than large cruise vessels, and our vessels accommodate anywhere between 110 and 140 guests.
How about you walk us through a typical day on a river cruise?
Okay, so your days start with a buffet breakfast served in the main dining room. All right. Then we normally have an included excursion where we either board a coach, a motor coach, or prepare for an in-town walking tour led by local English-speaking guides. Our tours always finish in time. We come back to the ship. We have an included buffet lunch on board. Now, on some of the days, the ship may actually depart in the morning for our next destination, and we have the chance to relax in the lounge or sit on the open-air deck upstairs and watch the scenery go by. Just in case we feel we might go hungry waiting for dinner, there's an opportunity for afternoon coffee and tea and delicious European pastries that are served daily in the Panorama Lounge. That's around 4 o'clock. Then it's dinner. And then, of course, if you're hungry after dinner, there is a late night snack service. If we aren't sailing, there are optional tours that are offered, taking us to sites usually within about an hour's drive. These two are all led by English-speaking guides, and they offer additional sightseeing and shopping opportunities. If the optional tour is not of interest to you and we're tied up close to town, you can walk off, all right? You can tour the town, you can borrow a bicycle, you can do some shopping, you can visit a pub, you can get some cash, you can stroll along the riverbanks. You know, your time is your own, but do pay attention so you know what time to be back on before we take off. Whatever your choice, our dinner time is always published in that daily itinerary we receive each night prior to the day's activities. And the optional excursions will always return in time for a port talk for everybody. This will tell you about the next day's schedule. After that port talk is when we go down for that elegant plated multi-course dinner. And we include wine, beer, and soft drinks for dinner every night. It's a leisurely event. After dinner, you can head up to the lounge. We offer nightly programs. There's musical entertainment. There's some games that are led by your crews or your tour directors. Or there's music and dancing. If none of that's of interest, you can just visit with your fellow passengers, sipping on an after-dinner drink that's always available for purchase from the lounge bar. And by the time your day is done, you head to your cabin for a good night's sleep. We sometimes sail at night, and the sounds of the waters just lull you to sleep, preparing you for another great day. So this gives you just a brief overview of the daily experience that we have on our cruise ships.
Deb, you're taking the Normandy cruise on the River Seine in early April. I know you've done this in the past. Can you share the highlights of the cruise?
Sure. And I am delighted to be working this cruise with Brad Wenzel and Chris McCool. Right? And my husband, Bill Sokolowski, will join us on this cruise as well. So we fly into Charles de Gaulle at the airport in Paris, usually arriving early a.m., and we can't get on board the ship until mid-afternoon, but we'll have options to keep you busy. So I love seeing and hearing about the stories of the artists that live in France. And our local guides are very well versed in the lives of these artists and bring the area to life. We'll go to the village where Vincent van Gogh lived and hike up to the beautiful cemetery where he and his brother Theo's final resting place is. We'll also go to a multimedia museum experience that will feature his paintings on the walls. It's set in motion to sound effects and music. So many of the towns we visit on this cruise suggest wearing really good walking shoes. We are always on cobblestone streets, and you'll want to be prepared with good shoes. We go to one of the 3 main ports of France called Rouen, famous for its architecture and museums. And the architecture will capture you as we see the 16th century stained glass windows of the Church of Joan of Arc. Our ship is docked nearby in Rouen, and you can spend, you drop crumbs from the ship, and then you know how to get back. And you can spend the afternoon shopping or visiting the churches or going to the other museums. It's a nice free time. So In particular, I think this tour offers some really great optional tours. I'm going to talk about two of them. I suggest the optional visit to the town. It's a maritime town of Honfleur. This harbor has working fishing vessels, and we have specifically chosen to provide this tour in the morning, as it will give us a chance to go to the outdoor local market where we can purchase arts and crafts and scarves and clothing and phenomenal food specialties, such as cider and caramels. And then there's a brandy called Calvados that's only there. And it's a brandy made from apples or pears. So a highlight for many on this river cruise will be an all-day included excursion to Normandy. We start with a visit to the promontory Pont de Hoc. This is the place that the U.S. Army Rangers scaled the 100-foot cliffs and seized the German artillery pieces that could have fired on the American soldiers at Omaha Beach. We'll also stop for a photo in front of the sculpture called Les Braves. It's a striking stainless steel monument commemorating the bravery of the Allied troops. And our final stop of that day will be the American Cemetery. This is where over 9,000 American troops are laid to rest. It's a sobering, powerful, and emotional day as we recall and learn about the historical events. So the next optional tour that I want to suggest is taking the excursion to Monet's House and Gardens. It's really not to be missed. It's just a short drive. We get to see, in addition to the House and Gardens, we go to Chateau Gaillard. It's an English king's castle. And then we continue on to Giverny. This is the town that inspired Claude Monet. Our visit starts with a walk by the ponds and the rows of flowers that keep you taking pictures of the stunning colors. We also get to tour his house. His house contains multiple reproductions of Monet's art. You know, once you return home and you look at a Monet painting, you will be reminded of where he got his inspiration. On day 8, when we return to Paris, we will take a guided city tour where we get to see the well-known sites, the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre, and other iconic sites. Your afternoon is clear. You get to enjoy the sights on your own. You can always skip lunch on the boat and enjoy a sidewalk bistro, watching the fashions walk by. And our final day will be an early morning departure for both those returning home as well as those taking the Eurostar train ride for the optional extension tour to London. I'll be taking, Bill and I will be taking this optional extension. We'll spend 2 nights in London. And as soon as we arrive, we have a city tour. We get to see the famous landmarks like the Tower of London, Trafalgar Square, Buckingham Palace, Big Ben, the River Thames. It's a great opportunity to get an overview of London. And then you have 1 full free day. So this is a day that you do also want to do some homework. So you can determine if you want to go to the theater, you want to go to high tea, you want some shopping opportunities. We'll have suggestions for you, all right? But you may want to think in advance. And then we end our tour with an English pub dinner on that final evening. We fly home the next day, and I'll be flying to Amsterdam. Bill goes home. I fly to Amsterdam to pick up the April 20th Holland, Windmills, Waterways, and Tulips River Cruise. I'll be doing this cruise with a Canadian tour director, Karen Hyde, and Grace Chang. We fly into Amsterdam, and our vessel takes off that night. This itinerary along the rivers in the region cover a number of historic towns. Those towns are Arnhem, Middelburg, Antwerp, Rotterdam, that's really a city, and Bruges. Bruges is referred to as the Venice of the North due to its many canals. If you enjoy historic architecture, World War II history, medieval and Gothic churches and cathedrals and impressive monuments, then this cruise is for you. Put on those walking shoes for those city tours on the cobblestone streets in Arnhem and Middelburg, Bruges and Antwerp, and be very aware of the ringing bells heard from the favored mode of transportation, the bicycle. Everyone's on a bicycle. A visit to the Oosterbeek includes a stop at the Airborne Museum. This is a historic hotel turned British headquarters during Operation Market Garden. There are a number of optional tours on this cruise. We go to the Dutch Open Air Museum. We have some Dutch specialty food tasting opportunities and some additional city tours of Ghent, Brussels, and the seaside town of Volendam. And we have a chance to go to a local cheese farm for checking out how they make the cheese and, of course, have some tasting. Now, a highlight for many on this cruise will be a visit to Keukenhof Gardens. These are the European flower gardens. 7 million bulbs are planted annually. And these gardens are only open for 8 weeks per year in the spring. It's a great opportunity. We'll have an afternoon visit to Kinderdijk Windmills. It's a fun way to see how the water was used and drained by these windmills. It's an entire village dedicated to the windmills. They have a museum of wooden shoes, and then they have a short presentation where you see a fellow make the wooden shoes right in front of you. When we return to Amsterdam, we'll enjoy a small open-air boat tour through many of the intricate canals lining the city. It's another great way to see Amsterdam. Now, there is so much more to Amsterdam that we wanted to offer a 2-night extension so you could take full advantage of many of the museums. I do want you to know that historically, many of these museums require advance reservations. And I would suggest that you look at this before you even get on the cruise. The Anne Frank House is an example. They book up very, very early. So once you decide on this, check out some of those museums or the Anne Frank House and put your reservation in. So I'm going to take a little breather before sharing my favorite cruise. Will, why don't we hear from you about the cruise, The Wonders of the Blue Danube?
All right. This is one of the most amazing cruises on one of the most beautiful rivers in all of Europe. And one of the things I really like about it are the actual cities that we get to visit. Now, we do this on 2 different dates for 2026. The first is October 10th, and that works itself from Budapest up to Regensburg in Germany. So we hit a number of different countries on both departures. The October 17th goes in reverse. So it comes into Munich, we start in Regensburg, and then head to Budapest. So depending on your availability, whether you can do the first or the second, they both hit the same itinerary components. But what we do on this is getting to see the city of Budapest and some of the mixture of its modern with its historical context, especially when it comes to Eastern Europe. So it's a really interesting destination, and we get to take that all in with a local guide. Another one of my favorite towns is still considered a city, but Bratislava feels like a town, feels smaller in its context. And so walking through the old town of Bratislava is one of my favorite parts of that experience as a whole. We'll also see Vienna, home of classical music as well as opera, amazing performances within that city. And then we go into a little bit of the wine country in the areas of Dürnstein and Melk. And within Melk, we visit the Melk Abbey. That has incredible history and a beautiful library to it. We'll head off to Linz, and from Linz, we'll do an optional tour out to Salzburg for the day. So get your taste of the sound of music. And then we work up to Passau, and then finally in Regensburg. Now, at the end of this trip, we do a 2-night extension to Prague, and that is just an incredible city in the Czech Republic, one of my favorite European cities as a whole. And then the group will either fly out of Munich or you'll fly out of Prague if you do that extension. But this one is 9 days, and we have 20 meals incorporated on this program. Really fun experience on board a newer ship, and that's the Amadeus Nova. Okay, Deb, as we wrap up with our river cruises, I wanted to touch on the highlights of the Douro with Spain. And let's hear what you have to say about this river cruise.
So, Will, I am often asked, what is your favorite tour? And this is a very challenging question because I love so many of them. However, if you ask me what is your favorite cruise, this one wins hands down. Now, I would have been doing the November Douro cruise, but I have a very good reason for saying no. My daughter is having a baby with an expected due date right in the middle of the cruise. So why is it my favorite? The Douro is a narrower river than most that we cruise on. This means that the sights along the riverbanks are easier to see. There's also a restriction to traveling on the river at night, so all of the movement is done during daylight hours. There's castles and churches and small villages and hillside vineyards to see while we cruise. There's wildlife to catch, bicycle riders to see along the riverbanks. It's really a charming way to view a country from the comfort of your cabin or sitting atop the riverboat for a bird's eye view. Included on this cruise are village tours and castle tours, including the landscape gardens of Matus Palace and Castello Rodrigo. This last one is located in a 12th century walled village. You'll enjoy included lunches, this is off the ship, okay, at local restaurants and several wine tastings. We'll motor coach to Salamanca, Spain, and enjoy a walking tour through this UNESCO World Heritage Site. Lunch and a flamenco show will fill out the day in Salamanca. And on our final evening in the coziness of our ship lounge after dinner, we'll be entertained by a folklorico group. If you wish to explore Lisbon, consider coming with me on the pre-extension. This is before the cruise starts. You'd fly in to Lisbon, all right? We'll take a city tour of Lisbon. We'll see the Bellum Tower, Geronimo's incredibly large monastery, among other sites. Then we take a motor coach and we'll go to the seaside village of Nazare and we stop at Fatima. This is the well-known Christian pilgrimage site, and we'll tell you the story of the 3 shepherd children where a purported miracle took place. And then our motor coach will take us to the city of Porto. Actually, that's my favorite city. And we'll board our ship and take off for our cruise. This cruise is a gem. It's on my list for November of 26, but I want you to know there still is space in November of 25 if you are interested. So folks, this really concludes my part of the travel show. I hope I've intrigued you with some details about tours and cruises for your consideration in the coming months and years. I wish you all a very happy and safe and healthy travel year. And for those who've traveled with me before, you know I never say goodbye. I say happy trails until we meet again. But don't leave us yet. We have a couple of more exciting international tours that Will's going to share with you, so stay tuned. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Deb. Thanks for joining us on this show. We have just a couple of more trips that I wanted to touch on before we do wrap up the show. First is our Alpine Swiss Villages and Rails, and this is a wonderful program going out throughout the summer and into early fall in September of 2026. A lot of dates, as you can see, because this one does fill up. We've already got a number of guaranteed departures for next year. We'll fly in and out of Zurich, we head down to the city and the town, really, of Wengen, which sits up in the mountains. And it's such a lovely resort area. We'll work our way around the small towns and villages. That's why it's named such, to see some of the smaller local experiences within Switzerland. And one of the unique aspects of this trip is taking the rail. So one of the most efficient methods of travel throughout Europe is the rail system. And there are so many great rail components that we have a Berner Oberlin Pass, which is a rail pass that we'll use on this tour. And that'll take us down to the Lauterbrunnen area, the Lauterbrunnen Falls every day, to get a chance to experience the trains from there. So we'll get a chance to see the Grindelwald area, Trummelbach Falls, as well, an optional out to Zermatt and the Matterhorn. A really wonderful program, and I highly recommend getting a chance to go out on this one in the summertime. Another newer trip for us is our Discover Japan by Bullet Train. And we had so many requests to do Japan as part of the last couple of years of travel shows. So we're bringing this into our array of trips, and we have a number of different dates available. May 7th, October 27th, and November 5th. All are being run by Pat Conway, and he does a great job leading trips. He's got a great passion for Japan. And what we'll do on this trip is flying into Tokyo, where we'll spend 3 nights, get a chance to do a Tokyo city tour and see the Imperial Palace. We also have a number of culinary experiences incorporated with this. So we'll get a chance to try some sushi. We'll visit a geisha show, and we also do a sake tasting. And so some really wonderful components on this itinerary. From Tokyo, we'll head down to Kyoto by bullet train. And these go so fast. It's really an amazing experience to take these in. And we'll do 3 different train journeys on the bullet train to Kyoto, to Osaka, and Hiroshima. So really fun cities. We'll learn about the history of Hiroshima, incorporating World War II. And we also do a city tour within Kyoto. So I highly recommend this program. It is 12 days and 20 meals included. One that I am truly excited about is our Kenya Safari program. This has seen such a huge hike in popularity in the last 2 years, and it's one that I've always wanted to join, always wanted to show people, and we are running 3 different dates for next year. One is March 5th, another October 29th, and November 5th. And I'm actually going to be leading the October 29th departure on this program. So if you want to join me, getting to see a tremendous diversity of wildlife, hopefully getting to see the big 5, those great animals, through the 10 different game drives that we incorporate on this trip. And we'll fly into Nairobi to start this tour. We spend our first night in Nairobi, and we'll work out to Amboseli National Park from there. In process, we also see the Karen Blixen home. This was a coffee estate and plantation, one of the largest estates in the Nairobi area. So a really unique setting there. And we also incorporate a visit to the Giraffe Center. Now, this is a really fun experience because we go to an area with a platform that is at the height of the giraffe's head. So they peek their head into the little observatory there, and sometimes they'll lick you or give you a kiss. And it really does bring to life these gentle animals and their complete and beautiful sense. Then we incorporate a visit to the Jane Goodall Chimpanzee Center, where these animals are being maintained and also kept healthy before being released back into the wild. We'll see Mount Kilimanjaro, and we also incorporate a visit to the Masai Mara Game Reserve on this trip. And that's the main central point for the Great Migration that takes place at other times of the year. Earlier into the summertime is when most of the animals are moving down to Tanzania. So we've timed our trip out to hit the best points to see these areas and see these animals, especially the elephant, very popular and highly populated in Amboseli National Park, as well the water buffalo and so many others. So really great program that we're leading, 13 days, 29 meals included, and I can't wait to get out on this trip. In regards to the show specials that we do, if you do book a new 2026 tour or European river cruise by next Friday, that's August 22nd, we're reducing the deposit down to $250 with purchase of travel protection. So really great opportunity to get a low deposit, reserve your space on the trip. We also have our one cabin category upgrade for our 2025 and 2026 river cruises that have space remaining. So that's a great savings of up to $200 to $400 per person. So you book the lower category at the lower price and get upgraded to the category above it. You would just use the code Tour Manager by next Friday for these specials to apply. And how you can book is call our office at our local number 858-481-8188, our 1-800-369-3693 number, or email Joe, Holly, April, or Samantha at afctours.com, and they can help answer your questions. Very easy flow of tour operations and getting all your questions answered up front so that you're confident in your booking. From all of us at AFC, for all the tour managers, again, thank you so much to Deb Howard for coming on and joining us today. We appreciate all of our travelers. Really, thank you for being here. And if you do have any questions, feedback about the show, or new show ideas, please reach out to April at afctours.com. Thank you all and have a wonderful week.